Hello everybody, it's Tee McNeill, the Chief Time Traveler for Time Travel Adventures, and welcome to my first Facebook Live video. So I decided to do a Facebook Live video today because we just published a new blog article. Shella Brenner, our experience designer, just posted an article called 5 Ways to Handle Local Currency Abroad. And I thought that I would take some time to talk about the blog article and go into a little bit more detail about one of the sections on credit cards. So if you'd like to follow along on this video, you can go to our blog site, which is timetraveladventures.com/blog, and click on the article 5 Ways to Handle Local Currency. So first up is credit cards. Now, most people typically use credit cards for traveling, but the question really is, what kind of credit card do we want to use? What do we want to take with us? Because everybody travels differently, right? So there's lots of different ways to use credit cards overseas. So the first thing that Shella does in this article that I really love is she gives you a nice overview of the subject. Then she gives you some pros and cons, and then some nifty tricks to think about before you actually go on your vacation. So the first question she asks is a really simple one, and that is, does your credit card company charge fees to actually use your card overseas? And you would think that this is an obvious question, but a lot of people don't think about it because they use their credit card in the United States with no problem. So the first question, what fees do they charge, and do they actually charge you to take money out? Okay, so let's tackle that. What fees do they charge? So a couple of different type of fees you might see associated with charges. The first is a foreign transaction fee, and that's a fee just to use your card overseas because you'll be purchasing things in local currency. Your credit card company will actually convert that foreign currency into US dollars, and they might charge you a fee to do that. The second thing they might charge you is an ATM fee or ATM withdrawal fee. Now in America, we've pretty much done away with those kinds of fees, but in Europe, particularly, if you're taking out euros from your credit card, you're going to be charged not only an ATM withdrawal fee, but you might also be charged a cash advance fee because you're taking cash from your credit card. Now, I would recommend using a debit card if you're going to take cash out of the ATM. Go ahead and use your debit card because it'll be a lot easier and you won't be charged a cash advance fee. So I'm actually going to talk about ATM cards in another segment, but today I'm just talking about credit cards. Let's see what else she asks. Now, if you do find that your credit card company charges you like a foreign transaction fee, you might want to give them a call and say, hey, I really want to use this card overseas. Do you guys think that you could waive that fee? If you happen to have a good relationship with your credit card company, they might say yes. They might say no though, so be prepared for that. But yeah, those are really good questions to ask. What if they charge a foreign transaction fee? If they charge a conversion fee, because I've seen something called a conversion fee as well. So one of the things, you know, that comes to mind is like maybe you should do some shopping before you go abroad and look for the type of credit cards that are friendly for travelers. Some of my favorite cards are the Chase Sapphire cards because they don't charge foreign transaction fees. Now, granted, that's what they say in their literature, so I'm never going to see like a statement line item that says foreign transaction fee, but when they convert their the currency from the foreign currency to dollars, there might be a fee hidden in that. I don't know because I don't know what conversion rate they're using that day. And in Shella's article, she says, you know, you really should know on a day-to-day basis what the conversion rate is, and you can go to www.x as in xylophone, e as in Edward.com, xe.com, and they will give you the conversion rate for whatever currency you're dealing with in what country. So that's one of my favorite websites to go to, and they also have an app, so I use the app when I'm traveling, just because whenever I'm about to purchase something, I want to know how much it's going to cost me in US dollars before I purchase it. So it's a really handy app to have. So when banks do business with one another, they use a wholesale conversion rate that, you know, they may or may not pass on to you. So I'm always aware of what that conversion rate is, so that when I get home and I'm looking at my statements, I'll say, okay, that's pretty close to what I saw on that day. If there's a little hidden fee in there, then I don't really care all that much. But with the Sapphire card, I don't get charged a foreign transaction fee, which is really great, and that's why I really love that card. So what are some of the pros and cons of using credit cards? Well, the first is you have a record of all of your transactions in one place, especially if you use just one credit card for purchases. When you get home, you can see whether or not you've blown your budget because everything will be right on that statement. And in case you guys wondering what I'm looking at, I actually have the article up right here on my tablet, so I'm following along and just making sure I'm covering everything. So the first thing she says is one of the advantages of using your credit card when you're traveling is you get to see everything at a glance. The other thing is, if you are clever and you're using a credit card that accrues points or miles, every purchase that you make overseas, you will accrue a point or a mile for it, which you can then use to redeem for travel, airline, hotels, car rentals, that kind of thing. Now, my two favorite travel credit cards is the Chase Sapphire, which gives you 2 points for every dollar that you spend, and then the Chase Sapphire Reserve, which gives you 3 points for every dollar that you spend. So that's a little hat tip personally from me. I love those cards for that reason. So one of the advantages is you get to accrue points and miles, and they add up really fast. If you've purchased a flight, a hotel, you eat at a restaurant, even an Airbnb or something like that, those all accrue points for miles, which is really nice. So what else did she say? What are some of the pros? Oh, the other thing is easy sense of security. So these days, credit card fraud departments are on it, right? So if someone steals your card or steals your number, you're not going to be responsible for any of those charges. Whereas if you're using a debit card, your whole checking or savings account could be completely blown or thrown into a tizzy because someone is using your number or your card. So there is a greater sense of security if you're using a credit card. You can simply call your bank and say, hey, I think my number has been stolen. Most credit card companies will expedite a replacement card to you wherever you are in the world. They even have phone numbers on the back of the card with numbers that you can collect if you happen to be overseas and you need to get in touch with them and you don't have access to say a local number. I really like that feature. So that sense of security is really nice. If something happens, then the credit card companies will take care of you. Let's see, what other pros? So the last one for me is, I just find that using a credit card is very convenient. And actually, what's funny about the convenience idea is that Sheila says that could be a disadvantage because it is so convenient that you can just whip out plastic and give it over for something, pay for something with plastic, and you're just not really thinking about your budget. So the biggest disadvantage of using your credit card is the convenience of it means that you can overspend very easily because it's just so easy and you're not keeping track of cash. One of the disadvantages of using credit cards overseas is depending on where you are. Like in big cities, no problem with using credit cards. But in small towns, it's possible that your credit card might not be accepted because they prefer local currency, local cash. Especially small mom and pop shops, or if you're out in a marketplace in a stall, they tend to want cash. They're not going to want to take your credit card because these are really small operators. Also, not all credit card brands are accepted. The most widely accepted brands out there are Visa and MasterCard. Not so much Discover. I don't think I've ever seen Discover used in overseas while I've been traveling. You'll find American Express for sure, but mostly in big cities. American Express tends to charge their merchants a little bit more in fees for every use, so you might not see American Express being used in small towns, especially. You're definitely not going to see that. So that's one disadvantage, is not all the credit card brands are offered everywhere. Let's see. Oh, the other thing is about the transaction fees. So if you happen to have a card that does charge you transaction fees, you know, if you've got 100 purchases on your 7-day trip to Europe, that's a transaction fee for every charge. So that can really add up. So it's really wise to find out before you leave what your bank is going to charge you, because you could come home to like a really unhappy bank account. Oof. And that has happened to me before. It wasn't pleasant. And she makes a point that sometimes fees are padded into the transaction fee. So you may not see the extra fee just for converting your foreign currency to dollars, but it could be in there. I mentioned this earlier, so keep that in mind. So those are the pros and cons of using a credit card. Now, Shella has some really great tips for what you might do or what you should be thinking about before you go on your trip. The first thing you want to do is make sure you call your credit card companies and you let them know that you're going on vacation, because if you don't and you try to use your card overseas, they may freeze your account and then you don't have access to your credit card. So the first tip is call them up, let them know where you're going, how long you're going, and just, you know, make it easy on yourself. And if you don't want to call them, some credit card companies will let you do this online. You just go online and then go into, I think it's like services or something like that, and you can just fill out a little form and let them know. One of the things that Shella talks about also is when you are making a purchase overseas, the merchant will ask you, do you want to pay for that in foreign currency, like local currency, or do you want to pay for it in US dollars? Always ask for local currency. Why? Well, because if they charge you in local currency, then your bank will be the one to actually do the conversion and give you the best rate. If you choose US dollars, basically that merchant has an agreement whereby they get to charge you a little bit more to do that conversion for you. So might as well have your bank, your credit card company do the conversion and save you some pennies there. So always ask for the local currency. Now, this next tip is a personal tip just for me. So I have had the experience where I've been traveling and I lost my card, and I was like, okay, how do I get in touch with this bank? Well, I didn't even think about it, but my tip is before you leave on your vacation, take a picture of all of the cards that you're taking with you, your credit cards, your debit cards, even your like driver's license and your passport, the front of the card and the back of the card, because if you lose your card, you're going to need the numbers to be able to call them, and you're going to need the numbers on the card. So if you've got the front, you've got all the information, and then on the back you have all of the contact information. So those are our tips and tricks for using credit cards overseas. Now again, if you didn't get the first part of the broadcast, all of these tips and tricks and pros and cons are on our blog at timetraveladventures.com/blog, and the title of the article is 5 Ways to Use Local Currency Abroad. And I definitely want to thank our experienced designer Shella Brenner for putting all this information together. She did a fantastic job, and my favorite part of her blog is that at the bottom of the article we have a downloadable file for you called the Money Abroad Checklist. These are all the things that you want to consider before you go on vacation. So head on over to our website, www.timetraveladventures.com/blog, and read the article and let us know if you have some tips and tricks of your own in the comment section, and then download the checklist. So thanks for watching, everybody. This was a lot of fun. I hope that this is the first of many Facebook Live feeds. Anyway, See you guys later. Bye-bye.